Hi, my name is Kathleen Robinson, and my project is on the role of state and federal groundwater policy in the management of the High Plains Aquifer, also known as the Ogallala Aquifer. The learning objectives for this module are: understand the issue of excessive water withdrawal from the High Plains Aquifer, gain a basic understanding of state policy as a factor in affecting groundwater use disproportionately across the shared resource, understand the role of federal policy in governing access to groundwater, and gain a broad understanding of the various factors affecting the High Plains Aquifer water levels. The High Plains Aquifer is a 174,000 square mile shared groundwater resource, and it underlies 8 states in the High Plains region of the United States. The aquifer is discontinuous, meaning not all parts of the aquifer connect, and is unconfined, meaning the water in the aquifer flows through permeable rock, sand, silt, and clay, unlike a confined aquifer where water flows between 2 impermeable layers. The aquifer is naturally recharged at a very slow rate, averaging approximately 1 inch per year across the aquifer. In areas of high recharge, such as Nebraska, recharge can be as high as 6 inches per year. In areas of low recharge, such as Texas, recharge can be as slow as 0.5 inches per year. 99% of groundwater withdrawals from the aquifer are used for irrigation, and 30% of agriculture in the United States relies on water from the High Plains Aquifer. The factors affecting the water quantity and quality in the High Plains Aquifer are many and varied. These factors are both natural and anthropogenic and range from differences in precipitation across the aquifer to differences in policy or social perception of water use across the aquifer. This makes the sustainability issue of the High Plains Aquifer a truly wicked issue. The USGS is tasked by Congress as one of the agencies that monitors and reports on the changes in water levels and quality in the High Plains Aquifer. The most recent report, done by Virginia McGuire of the USGS, includes data through 2015 and was published in 2017. The data in this table shows average water losses per state in the High Plains Aquifer from pre-development, which is around 1950, through 1980, and then every 1 to 2 years following that. I've entered the data from that report into a chart to give a visual representation of each state's water losses. So you can see that Texas, in comparison to other states and the aquifer as a whole, has lost significantly more water over time. As another visual representation of water losses over 2 periods of time from the same McGuire report, on the left is 2013 to 2015 water losses over the entire aquifer, and on the right is pre-development, which is around 1950, to 2015. Now that you have a good basic understanding for the issue of water loss across the entire aquifer, you can dig deeper by looking at these backgrounders. First, a quick video by the National Science Foundation called the Ogallala Aquifer. This gives a really great basic intro to the High Plains Aquifer and sustainability issue. Next, from a previous version of the USGS McGuire report, is an animation of the loss in saturated thickness across the aquifer. This report is put out approximately every 2 years, so the animation shows similar data to the map showing water loss from pre-development to 2015. Next is a video by Cooking Up a Story, which gives a really great point of view from Texas on the High Plains Aquifer water issue. And finally, the USGS website Groundwater Watch. This website gives you several options so you can see real-time data on groundwater quantity and quality across the entire U.S. The first background reading I'd like you to read is the Virginia McGuire report published in 2017 by the USGS. After reading this report, you'll have a really good idea of the issue surrounding excessive groundwater withdrawals from the High Plains Aquifer. The next background reading is a thesis on groundwater policy by Sanjaya Joshi. In my several terms of doing research on the High Plains Aquifer, I've done a lot of work trying to compile lists of groundwater policy and management practices by state, and I've only recently found this paper. This is seriously the best I've found so far, as it's really difficult to compile this information. Each state has a different website and varying degrees of difficulty in accessing their policy on groundwater management. Please read over the different types of water policy for each aquifer state, the description of different types of water policy, and the section Texas by Comparison. Finally, please read the first few pages of the paper published by the Congressional Research Service on the role of federal policy in groundwater management. After reading this and the previous paper on state groundwater policy, you'll have a good idea of the role policy plays in groundwater management, whether it be from the state perspective or from the federal perspective. For the case study assignment, please access the USGS website High Plains Water Level Monitoring Study. This website is a breakdown of the McGuire 2017 report. Please click on and read through the Home, High Plains Aquifer Information, and Summary Statistics tabs. Here, you'll get a good idea of the factors affecting water availability in the High Plains Aquifer. For the case study, you're going to do a bit of a comparison between state policy and groundwater withdrawals. I'd like for you to focus on Texas, the state with the most significant losses in groundwater from the High Plains Aquifer. In the backgrounders and background readings, as well as in the High Plains Water Level Monitoring Study listed above, you can see the impact that human use has had on the aquifer and how each state has their own unique groundwater policy. Texas has lost the largest percentage of saturated thickness. Is there any correlation between the changes Texas has seen in the aquifer and their groundwater policy? For the discussion, I'd like for you to consider Texas groundwater policy and their significant losses in saturated thickness of the High Plains Aquifer. Is it possible to attribute their loss in groundwater solely to their groundwater policy? Why or why not? If not, what other factors should be considered? Here's a hint, there are many factors, and I'd really like for you to think outside the box for this one. Many of the other factors can be found in the High Plains Water Level Monitoring Study from the previous slide, in the backgrounder videos, the McGuire study, and on my concept map on the end of this presentation. As I mentioned in my introduction to this project, this issue is truly wicked, and there are factors affecting the aquifer on multiple scales. So like I said, think outside the box. There are many factors that aren't even listed in the backgrounders and background readings that I've put inside this presentation. And finally, what role do you think the federal government should have in regulating groundwater? Do you think it should remain a state issue? Why? The case study question from the previous slide and these discussion questions don't necessarily have an exact answer. The answers you provide will be based not only on the factors you've learned about in this case study, but also on your personal experiences with groundwater. Do you use a well in everyday life? Do you use city water that is metered? To answer the question about the role federal policy should play in groundwater management, think about the scale of this issue. Is it possible to have one entity regulate and manage such a large resource? What could be some barriers to that? Should more than one entity regulate and manage it? My final slides include my references and my concept map. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.